Hey guys, what's going on? Drew here. This is Driving Conversations with Drew. I live in Las Vegas. I'm 39 years old. I've been working in construction for a few years now, and I actually manage project sites, properties, and support clients with construction and maintenance work that's being done. So as I'm driving around and moving and shaking around Las Vegas, I've been told in the past I should start some sort of communication about providing some, perspective, some insight, some support, reframing ideas, abilities to process new information or new concepts on life and things going on in it. And to a degree, most of that is friendships, relationships, the communication in there and throughout that. My background, just quickly on this, is I've been told many times that I should be a life coach because of my, I guess you could say, my very analytic approach and perspective on this, which is very low in the feelings bracket and very high in the analytics and data and concepts bracket, and trying to understand more of the values of an idea in a more, what we could say, and maybe it's very kindergarten in its approach, but everything that I see most of the time is formulaic. So it's very mathematical based in a way, and not math that you would learn in school necessarily, but the concept of that idea being that things have kind of what they say in physics and other parts of life, like things have an equal and opposite reaction, and what are the other ones? The inertia ones and all this other stuff. So all these different things play a role in a concept of how I platform on this situation. So in regards to this, and going a little further deeper, this conversation was about getting the direct contact of an individual to be able to contact them in the future, and this person was able to receive an Instagram handle. Okay, well, in my background, in my era of life and relationships, getting the 10 digits was the idea of success, I guess you could say, in approaching somebody and being able to make them feel in a level of comfort to exchange phone numbers so that you guys can contact each other further and get to know each other more and develop from there. Well, the irony of this is that level of communication now and connection is gone to a degree. So yes, in this conversation, did they need to approach each other and talk about something? Yes, they did. In some of these conversations, though, using the same approach, there can also be no physical communication or contact when exchanging that information. It could just be connecting online and then carrying on. So, in light of this conversation, let's move forward. So, now, this individual is watching the stories, sees this lady's story, and is in the process of commenting, but the screen rotates, as I'm sure you all know, like the reels and like the stories and the timelines and whatever the heck, like they rotate all fast. Like, I'm not very privy to this. I really don't follow it. I'm actually doing it more on doing this than I've done probably in my whole life. So in all, I have one for business, but that I wouldn't count that. So at this point, he's tried to contact somebody, and without any negativity, and I mean no negativity at all. The message sent was 100% accidental and had no negative impact at all on a person. So it was 100% an accident. So, and the message itself had no inflection or anything of negativity in any way. Like, it was more just odd in its context and its timing. was just bad, and it could be rectified easily. So in showing kind of a conversation of this, just to give a credence to it, would be in that conversation, mistaken text message sent, and do I say what the message said or not? The message was actually supposed to be to a friend on his story, and was supposed to be, I'm thinking of a number between X and Y. And none of it had to do with anything other than like 4 and 7, basically. Not even like a weird joking number that I'm sure you guys would attribute to the Y number that I gave. So at this point, the conversation then becomes like, what is the numbers between 4 and 7 or 30 and 11 and whatever? It doesn't matter. Like, what does that have to do with anything? Like as my mom would say, the tea in China. It doesn't have an impact at all, really. Like, and in all fairness, in that moment, in my mind, I was like, oh, this is a jump off point. Like, oops, I got off at the wrong exit. Like, you could easily do something different. And there was a spin to this that was capable, and could carry on and keep the conversation going. So in that light, interestingly enough, the person actually was sought out advice for what the next step was before reaching out to me. And that advice was given to apologize in a direct message, DM, and basically talk about just kind of like apologizing for the mishap, if that makes sense, for whatever that's worth. So, ironically, let me put a pin in that real fast. To me, apologies are set for when you actually mess up. Like when you've actually made a legitimate, actual, real life problem mistake, and what happened was, you know, you offended, affect, and really upset a situation. Did that happen? No, it did not. So, was an apology overtly necessary? No. Could you communicate that it was a strange moment? Yes. And talk about that? Of course you could. So at this point, the irony is this. My advice, although the apology was sent and the person's response to that apology was, yeah, I thought it was kind of a weird thing, which I said was just timing was bad. So in that way, the irony here is this. My response to that moment would be, instead of apologizing, it would have been to say something like, actually, just kidding. I was actually wondering what your favorite number was, or trying to guess your favorite number, or something non-offensive, but to also show and admit that I knew that was kind of like a weird, accidental, not aggressive thing. And it came out at the wrong time, but it's still legitimately usable as an information or data point that you could develop. So the interesting concept to that would then be, in talking about the favorite number, whether or not that works then triggers the next part, which is, sorry, my drink keeps falling, I'm trying to fall over. So the next part would then turn into talking about, you could use that to develop into a deeper part of conversation. So you could push to favorite colors, favorite foods, favorite everything else starts to spawn from there. So the conversation doesn't fall harder than it needs to, if you will, to a dipping point where it's a little harder to come back to kind of like the middle, if you will, of conversation, and it just being natural. So at that time, at that concept, I think that might help give people kind of a concept of what's going on here, is to try and just set an expectation for people, and we'll talk about that further in more videos about the levels and structure of things that can be done for the kids here, and just providing some more stability in ideas and developing and stabilizing yourself and who you are and what you're looking for in life and keeping to those core values and feelings. So I look forward to talking to you all soon, and this was Driving with Truth.